as vice president during the last administration. The president made it very clear that he believes our other nations around the world should look into it as well.
Mike Pence's unwavering sycophancy to Donald Trump has landed the vice president in the middle of the impeachment inquiry. House Democrats on Friday sent a letter to Pence demanding that he turn over documents related to the president's dealings with Ukraine. The request came after the Washington Post reported that a top Pence advisor was on the now infamous July 25th phone call. CNN reported that Pence was informed of the call the day after it happened and provided a transcript, according to sources familiar with the matter. Joining me now is MSNBC political contributor David Jolly, a former Republican congressman who is no longer with the party. And Congressman, let me read you the Pence office's, the vice president's office response to the request for documents related to that call and his knowledge of it. The office of the vice president received the letter after it was released to the media and has been forwarded to the counsel's office for a response. Given the scope, it does not appear to be a serious request, but just another attempt by the do-nothing Democrats to call attention to their partisan impeachment. This is Katie Waldman, supposedly, who wrote it. It sounds like Donald Trump wrote it. At this point, we have the president and the vice president and the Department of State pretending they don't have to listen to subpoenas.
Right.
That's unprecedented, obviously. But what do you think that Mike Pence's game is here? Because he's now implicated. He's not distancing himself from Donald Trump. He's going even further in.
I think the House should respond by opening an impeachment inquiry into the vice president of the United States. And I think they should also include the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the OMB director. Joy, I think it's very likely that Vice President Mike Pence engaged in impeachable behavior, just like the president did. Consider the facts. Consider what we know already publicly available. The vice president canceled his trip to the inauguration in May to attend a political rally for Donald Trump. There was not a significant obligation he had to attend to. We know the infamous phone call at the end of July with Trump. The text messages all occurred between the end of July and throughout August, preceding the president sending Vice President Pence to meet with Zelensky on September 1, where he told the vice president, "We're not giving you the aid. We're not giving you the assistance." All this was occurring at the same time. So to suggest that the vice president did not know about a quid pro quo or that the leverage was being used to get an investigation into Biden would suggest that the vice president, or that the president knew, the Secretary of State knew, the Attorney General knew, 12 people on the phone call knew, the ambassador to the EU, the acting ambassador to the Ukraine, the special envoy to the Ukraine, at least one whistleblower, maybe a second. But Vice President Pence didn't know anything about this? It's not believable.
Yeah.
Vice President Pence is the Ivanka Trump of the vice presidency. He expects us to be appreciative of his service to the country. He expects us to appreciate the fact that he's working within this administration on behalf of the people. But in moments of consequence, he disappears. In moments of scandal, he suggests he knows nothing about it. He and Ivanka are both completely anytime a scandal erupts. Ivanka hides behind her $5,000 dresses and $10,000 bags. Vice President Pence has mastered hiding behind this professed evangelical humility. Neither one of them are believable nor credible. I think the House, in all of these delay tactics from the White House, should set a schedule, 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever it is. Say, this is our schedule for hearings. You're invited to come and testify, defend yourself, but we're voting on week 11.
And you know, you make a really good point, because Mike Pence vanishes into the draperies whenever anything goes wrong. I mean, on the Michael Flynn situation, he supposedly had no idea what was going on and was lied to, and this is why Flynn go. So he keeps on, he's the excuse that he's this sort of the pristine figure. But not only is he involved in everything, to your very point, the start of this conspiracy theory that Donald Trump seems to really believe in, that really Russia did nothing wrong, that the reality is that the evil Ukrainian, they're the ones who went after him, but started by going after Manafort. And so the conspiracy theory is this is from the New York Times. There is the idea promoted by the president's lawyer, Rudolph Giuliani, that Ukraine's government actively sabotaged Mr. Trump's 2016 campaign. A Ukrainian-American lawyer who consulted for the DNC looked into the finances of Paul Manafort and spoke with Ukrainian embassy officials, but there appears to have been no organized Ukrainian government effort to intervene. Now, this means the Ukrainians actually caught Manafort taking money from Yanukovych, the corrupt, pro-Russian president. They caught him. They put out the money. Manafort then gets in trouble and goes to prison. Who picked Mike Pence to be the vice president of the United States? Who brought Mike Pence to the table? Paul Manafort.
That's right. Exactly.
He's Manafort's man.
That's right. And Mike Pence's job was to convince the rest of the Republican Party to go along with Donald Trump. And this is exactly the type of behavior from Mike Pence where he is fully complicit. Mike Pence was the validator for Donald Trump to the establishment Republican Party. In the midst of all of this conspiracy, and it's important we focus on impeachment now, but understand the national security implications of what was going on as well. Our 15 or 16 intelligence agencies have concluded that Russia interfered. We know that Russia invaded Crimea and the Ukraine. The worldwide response was to push back on Russia. What was happening was this counterculture national security doctrine within the Trump world, peddled by Manafort, later by Giuliani, and supported by Vice President Pence, that somehow we have to focus on the Ukraine, give a pass to Russia. The national security implications of what we're going on touches the vice president just as much as it does the president and the entire Republican Party who covers for them.
And this is the challenge, right, that if Donald Trump was to be impeached and for some reason Republicans, 20 Republicans, were to vote to remove, then Mike Pence would then become the head of state, as you said, having been implicated in all of this as well.
Well, I think Trump's trying to take down Mike Pence. I mean, what president says, if you want to look at my phone calls, you should look at Mike Pence's phone calls.
Right.
Look, they're tied at the hip. And Mike Pence, to your point, continues to try to hide. The House has a mechanism. Impeachment is not just for the President of the United States. It's for other high officers as well. I'm not suggesting they would uncover enough to impeach the Vice President to bring articles, but the clarity of the House for all of history to suggest that this scandal reaches to a foreign policy implication that is hurting our own national security and has shown disloyalty by the President of the United States to the American people should investigate who knew what when outside of the Oval Office, but to the office of the Vice President, the Secretary of State, AG, and OMB. Yep. Investigate them with clarity so that all of history knows that this entire team is corrupt and tainted.
And do you foresee, having served in the Republican Party and been a Republican, I assume, most of your adult life?
Yeah.
Can you foresee any Republicans? We know Mitt Romney, to his credit, has at least said something that this is wrong. You've had a couple of Republicans come out, Will Hurd, this is wrong. Can you foresee any Republican senators, even Romney, voting to convict this president and voting to convict if, let's say, you get what you want and they are all placed on the impeachment?
Hurd's the bellwether in the House, particularly because of his intel background. This one cuts really close. There are some outgoing members, Susan Brooks of Indiana, Martha Roby in Alabama, really no love lost with Trump. In the Clinton impeachment, 5 Democrats moved over and voted for it. It was more because they were conservative, ideologically Southern Democrats. You may see a few. In the Senate, I think Romney votes for a clean article of abuse of power if the Democrats send one over. I think he does. The question is, do the Democrats send over a couple more articles that allow him to vote no on say, obstruction of Congress or something? And the real dispositive question is, can Romney bring anyone with him? Or is he on the mountaintop now as the Republican counter to Trump? And he may be okay with that, because 2020 is coming and so is 2024.
Right.
And there will be an effort to rebuild the Republican Party. The American people might not find it a believable effort, but Romney might be the champion of that.
And here's the irony, because there's always irony. Donald Trump auditioned Mitt Romney to be a Secretary of State, and he took that humiliating dinner.
Romney would not have allowed this. Mike Pompeo did. He should be included in the impeachment inquiry.
David Jolly, thank you very much.
Good to be with you.
Really appreciate it. And somehow, by the way, Donald Trump remains like Teflon. It seems like nothing sticks, right? We'll see. We'll see.